we're tackling a subject that is, I think, so common, so just part of the scenery of life that we almost never really stop to look at it.
We just take it for granted.
Completely. We are diving into a stack of sources all about something deceptively simple. The cow, a
Hmm.
domestic animal. You see them everywhere. But our sources argue its existence is a key to these huge shifts in human history.
Yeah, it might seem a little strange to dedicate a whole deep dive to, well, a cow. But the material we pulled together makes this pretty astonishing claim right at the start.
What's that?
It basically says the cow isn't just livestock. It's a fundamental engine of human progress. The sources actually use the phrase an important role in human life, and they argue it might have the greatest value of any domesticated animal because of just how much it contributes.
And our source material is really rich on this. It's a collection of observations that cover, well, everything, from the physical details and economic functions to its history in agriculture, its cultural significance, and even the really tough modern ethical challenges we're facing now.
So our mission today for you is to really get under the skin of why this gentle animal that you see grazing in fields everywhere holds so much power in the human story.
Right, we have to move past that simple image of a farm animal.
Exactly. We
Ugh.
need to explore the full implications of this ancient partnership we have with them and trace this really complex relationship of dependency, devotion, and in today's world, sometimes neglect.
Okay, let's unpack this. So we have to start with the animal itself. The sources define the cow, first and foremost, as a domestic animal, and they really emphasize how very common it is, especially in villages and rural areas.
And that definition, domestic animal, that's really where the whole analysis begins. It's not just a label.
It's a relationship.
It's a relationship. It's this long-standing mutual contract. Humans provide management, protection, food, and in return, the animal offers this incredible utility. The fact that they are so common, I mean, that's just proof of how wildly successful this contract has been.
It means it works. It works everywhere.
It works everywhere. The animal is adaptable, it's robust, it's economically viable in totally different climates with different resources.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a foundational piece of so many civilizations.
And the sources give us the basic physical breakdown. 4 legs, a long tail, and 2 horns. Now that sounds like a children's book, but each of those features is really the blueprint for its utility.
Oh, absolutely. The 4 sturdy legs, I mean, that's obvious for walking, but it's really about providing the power, the locomotion for hauling massive weights, for plowing fields, for hours on end.
Work that human labor just couldn't sustain on a large scale.
Not a chance. And the long tail, people don't really think about it, but it's a critical tool. It's biomechanical defense against flies and insects that can spread disease and cause a lot of stress for large animals like this.
So a healthy, comfortable animal is a more productive animal.
It's as simple as that. And the horns, well, they're defensive, sure, but their structure tells a story about the animal's lineage, about the pressures that human breeders put on them over centuries.
But the real sort of living history is in its appearance, right? The sources mention the body is typically brown, white, black, or mixed in color.
And that diversity is just fascinating. It's basically a visible record of thousands of years of human genetic selection. You're in the humid tropics, you use a certain kind of coat. Arid plains, a different one.
Yeah.
We've bred them for specific jobs.
So some for high milk production.
Right, where you're prioritizing fat conversion and udder size. And then others are bred for pure muscle, for endurance, big shoulder strengths for hauling. The different colors and shapes are like a living library of what humans have needed throughout history.
Okay, so that's the structure. But what powers this thing? The sources are very clear. They eat grass, hay, and simple food. And that simple sentence, that's where the revolution is.
We absolutely cannot overstate how important that simple diet is. The cow is a ruminant. Biologically, that means it has this complex stomach with 4 chambers, and inside that stomach, the rumen are these microbial communities.
Little helpers.
Tiny little helpers doing a biochemical miracle. They allow the cow to take high cellulose stuff like grass and straw.
Things we can't digest at all.
Exactly. Indigestible to us. And they convert it into high-value protein and fat that we can digest.
So, crucially, the cow isn't competing with us for food. It's not eating our wheat or our corn. It's taking what is basically useless to us from land that might be useless for farming and turning it into life-sustaining food.
And that ecological niche is what made it the perfect partner for expanding human settlements. And what's really interesting is how the sources immediately connect this slow, steady diet to the cow's nature. They're described as calm animals,
Gentle and peaceful.
gentle and peaceful. There's a link between their biological process, this slow, methodical conversion of grass, and their calm demeanor.
Which is the foundation of domestication. You can't have a partnership with a dangerous animal.
You can't. And the source makes a huge point of this. Cows do not attack humans without a reason. Think about it. An animal this large, it can weigh over a ton. It has to be fundamentally docile to be around villages, around children, around farms.
Right, you need that predictability, that safety.
It's essential for milking, for plowing, for just general care. Without that inherent patience, the whole contract of domestication would just be too dangerous. It wouldn't work.
That's a really powerful point. Their entire utility is built on their biology and their temperament, which I think lets us move perfectly into the next section, where that temperament is the backdrop for their primary economic function.
The one that changed the world.
Right. So the sources don't mess around here. They identify the core economic engine right away. One of the biggest benefits of a cow is milk. It seems so simple, but for billions of people, this one product represents daily food, nutritional security. It's a revolution in a glass.
And when we break down milk, we have to look at it from a few angles. Its nutritional value, its universality, and then the incredible impact of what we learn to do with it. Nutritionally, the source points out it's important for children, adults, and old people.
The whole human life cycle.
The whole life cycle. Because it's often called nature's most nearly perfect food. It's a complete package.
It's not just sugar water. We're talking about a balance of high-quality proteins like casein and whey, which are crucial for building muscle, and then fats, which are just these incredibly dense energy sources.
Exactly. The source is right. Milk gives energy, strength, and nutrition to the body. And having a consistent supply of that translates directly into better public health, more stamina for work, better resistance to disease for whole populations.
Historically, it must have just been a game changer for solving the calorie problem.
A huge one. Having reliable access to animal fat and protein meant societies could spend less time hunting and gathering. It freed people up for other things, for specialized jobs. It helped build cities.
But the value doesn't start with the liquid itself. And this is where we get to the product ecosystem. The sources give us a list of 4 derivatives that turn this perishable liquid into a whole industry: curd, butter, ghee, and cheese.
And this is where human ingenuity meets animal biology. These 4 things aren't just food. They are 4 different scientific solutions to the problem of preservation and concentration of energy.
Okay, so let's take them one by one. First, curd.
Right, or yogurt.
Yeah.
This is all about lactic acid fermentation.
Yeah.
And what that process does is it extends the shelf life of milk by making it too acidic for a lot of the bad bacteria to grow.
So it's a preservation method, but it also does something else, doesn't it?
It does. Crucially, that fermentation process pre-digests some of the lactose. And that makes it easier to tolerate for people who have trouble digesting fresh milk.
So it actually makes the nutrition more accessible to more people.
Exactly. And it introduces probiotics, which helps gut health. A massive advantage in, pre-modern times with poor sanitation. Curd is immediate accessible preservation.
Okay, number 2, butter.
Butter is all about concentrating energy. You're separating the fat from the milk. And for ancient diets, this was an incredibly dense, easy to digest source of calories. Think about places where fuel for cooking was scarce. Butter gave you the energy you needed without a lot of processing.
And from butter, we get to ghee, which is particularly important in South Asia.
Ghee is the next level of refinement. You're slow heating the butter to separate out the milk solids in the water, leaving just pure butter fat. And the amazing thing about ghee is its stability.
It lasts forever.
Practically. By getting rid of the water and protein, you make it incredibly resistant to spoilage. You can store it for years without refrigeration. This turned a perishable food into a storable, tradable asset. It was like liquid capital.
And finally, cheese. This feels like the peak of the whole process.
It's the absolute pinnacle of preservation engineering. You're using an enzyme, like rennet, to coagulate the milk, separate the solids, the curds, from the liquid whey. What you're left with is this solid block of concentrated nutrition.
The ultimate portable food.
Think of the logistics. You've concentrated the protein and fat and taken out almost all the water. Now you can store huge amounts of nutrition in a really compact, durable form. Long-distance trade routes, feeding armies, nomadic movements, all of that was revolutionized by cheese. It turned the cow's daily gift into a long-term strategic resource.
The impact of just those 4 products is staggering, and that brings us to the economic dependency. The sources really stress that many families rely on selling milk for their daily income.
And that's a key point. It's a daily income. In traditional farming, you often have to wait for a single harvest once a year. That's a huge risk. The cow provides a steady cash flow every single morning all year round.
That's stability.
It's total stability. That daily income is what pays for school, for medicine, for participating in the market. It turns the cow into this self-renewing biological ATM that stabilizes entire local economies.
It's economic security in its most basic form. And this whole system, the milk, the products, the income, it naturally leads us away from what the cow produces directly and into its other massive contributions, specifically to agriculture.
To the very ground we farm on.
Exactly. We're shifting from the cow's output, the milk, to its physical input, its labor. The sources talk about its historical utility in villages for farming, the original workhorse.
Before we had machines, the cow, or more often the ox, the castrated male, was the main source of power. Controllable, sustainable, non-human power. And we can't underestimate how dependent we were on that.
The sources mention 2 main roles. Farmers use them to plow fields and transport goods.
Plowing is just brutal, energy-sapping work.
Yeah.
A human with a hoe can only do so much. The cow provided the raw power to turn over heavy soil, get oxygen in there, control weeds, basically prepare huge areas of land for planting.
It was a technological leap, really, just powered by muscle instead of an engine.
It was. The cow was the original tractor, but a much more sustainable one. It runs on grass, which grows back, doesn't eat fossil fuels. The increase in production was exponential. You go from a single farmer cultivating a tiny plot to a pair of oxen covering several acres a day. That's how you go from subsistence farming to growing enough surplus to feed a city.
And the transportation part is just as big. Getting your crops from the farm to the market, hauling supplies. The cow was the logistical backbone for pre-industrial economies.
And this isn't all just ancient history. The sources are quick to point out that even today, in some areas, cows are still essential for agriculture.
Right, in developing economies or in places where the land is too hilly or broken up for big machinery.
Yeah, exactly. The cow is still the most economically viable power source. It's low cost to acquire, it's self-fueling, it's even self-repairing to an extent. It's a perfect model for sustainable power.
This deep utility then brings us to the secondary product, but it's immensely valuable. Cow dung. The sources say it's utilized as natural manure.
And we really need to understand what that means. It's not just waste, it's cyclical renewal. And its value as a soil conditioner is huge, especially when you compare it to modern chemical fertilizers.
The sources say it improves soil quality and helps crops grow better. What's the science behind that?
Okay, so synthetic fertilizers usually just give a quick boost of a few isolated nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK. They feed the plant, but they don't really feed the soil itself.
But cow dung provides those nutrients and organic matter.
And the organic matter is the lifeblood of the soil. It acts like a sponge, helping the soil hold more water, which is critical for resisting drought. It creates humus, it improves aeration, and it feeds the whole microbial ecosystem in the soil that keeps it fertile for the long term.
So the same animal that plows the field is also fertilizing it in a way that chemicals can't replicate. It's a zero-waste system.
It is the ultimate inefficiency. But the uses for dung don't even stop there. The sources mentioned its use as fuel, and for making eco-friendly products.
As fuel, so you mean dried patties for fires?
That's the traditional way, yes. But
Yes.
increasingly, it's used to create biogas through anaerobic digestion. You put the dung in a sealed container, it breaks down, and it releases methane gas.
Which can be used for cooking and heating.
A clean, low-cost, readily available energy source. It reduces the need to cut down trees for firewood, and if you capture the methane, it's much better for the climate.
And the eco-friendly products.
Historically, mixing it with mud to make bricks, to plaster walls, to create flooring.
Mm.
It's a great binder and insulator. So if you step back and look at the whole picture, the cow provides food, transportation, energy for the home, and fertility for the field, all at once. It's a complete closed-loop system of sustainability.
That sheer depth of utility,
Yeah.
economic, nutritional, ecological,
Yeah.
it's no wonder its value is seen as so immense, which I think is the perfect bridge into how we see the animal, not just practically, but culturally.
Right. How function inspires faith.
The sources shift their focus here, specifically to India, where the cow's status goes way beyond just being a useful animal.
And this is such a critical pivot in the material. It shows how that intense, multifaceted utility we just talked about can evolve into reverence. The source is very clear. In India, the cow holds cultural and religious importance.
It's a reciprocal relationship.
Exactly. Utility leads to respect, and respect demands protection. The sources clarify that many people respect the cow and treat it as a sacred animal.
And that sacred designation changes the entire contract, doesn't it? In a purely economic sense, an old cow that doesn't give milk or can't work isn't valuable.
But when it becomes sacred, the contract shifts from a transaction to an ethical duty. The animal is protected and cared for regardless of its immediate output.
And the sources say this reverence is rooted in the character traits associated with the animal. They list 3 core virtues: simplicity, patience, and motherhood.
And these aren't just descriptions. They're moral models. They're ideals for human behavior.
Let's break those down. First, simplicity. What does that mean in this context?
It points to the cow's unpretentious nature. It has very basic needs, grass and water. But its contribution is monumental. It provides the necessities of life without demanding luxury.
So it's a symbol of selflessness.
It's a symbol of selfless, quiet productivity. It's a model that values sustained contribution over demanding consumption. It connects that simple agrarian life with a kind of moral purity.
Okay, then there's patience.
This ties right back to its temperament. The cow's life is slow, it's steady, it's predictable, grazing, ruminating, giving milk every day, enduring hard labor without complaint.
So it represents steadfastness.
It does. In a world that can be chaotic and full of conflict, the cow is this visible reminder of nonviolence and endurance. It's an archetype for performing one's duty, and that makes it a very powerful moral anchor.
And the third one, motherhood. This one feels like the most powerful. In the Hindu tradition, Gau Mata, or cow mother.
It's arguably the most potent symbol. The cow gives this life-sustaining gift of milk, not just to its own calf, but to everyone across the entire human lifespan. It becomes the universal provider.
The ultimate nurturer.
Like the earth itself, it gives to everyone, regardless of their status. This symbolism is so powerful that it elevates the cow to an object of devotion, which in turn secures its protection.
And this whole belief system then creates these very clear ethical teachings for the community. The sources say people believe that caring for cows teaches kindness and responsibility.
That is such a critical link. The act of caring for this animal, this patient, simple, maternal creature, becomes a form of moral practice. It's how you learn empathy, patience, a sense of duty.
And this belief has a direct practical outcome.
It does. The sources conclude that because of this belief, cows are protected and fed by many people. The care becomes a spiritual duty, not just a practical one. It's a way of demonstrating your own moral character.
So it's the self-reinforcing cycle of reverence and care. It's designed to keep that human-animal partnership in a perfect, respectful balance.
Yes, but this is where the sources introduce a really sharp, almost brutal pivot. They contrast this deeply held ideal of respect with the harsh reality of modern life.
Yeah, this transition in the material is It's genuinely jarring. We've just spent all this time establishing the cow as a symbol of patience, motherhood, incredible value. And then the source just hits you with this statement. The life of cows in modern cities is not easy.
It presents a huge ethical paradox. The animal is spiritually revered, but practically it's often abandoned. The traditional support system, the village, the farm, the family that depends on it, that system is completely broken in a modern city.
And the sources are specific about this neglect. They say many cows are left on roads without proper care. This isn't just an accident, it's a systemic failure.
It is. As cities expand and machines replace the cow's agricultural role, the animal is literally pushed out of that sustainable loop we described and left to fend for itself in an environment it was never meant to be in.
An environment that is actively hostile to it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that neglect leads directly to this horrible health crisis. The source is very direct. Cows eat plastic and garbage, which is described as very harmful to their health. This isn't just about going hungry. It's about being slowly poisoned.
I mean, a cow is a specialized ruminant. It's designed to process grass. When it eats a plastic bag or styrofoam,
Its whole digestive system is destroyed. The microbes in its rumen die. The plastic blocks its intestines. It's a slow, agonizing death from internal blockage and starvation. For the animal to be eating human waste, it's the ultimate betrayal of that sacred status.
and the sources are incredibly clear about who's to blame.
Yes, there's no ambiguity. They state it plainly. This is not the fault of the cow. It is the failure of humans.
That is a direct ethical accusation. It's saying the problem isn't the cow being on the street, the problem is our failure to manage our own systems. Waste management, urban planning.
The failure to live up to the ethical standards we claim to hold.
hmm
In the city, the cow becomes this living, suffering barometer of our society's morality.
It really forces you to ask if our culture demands we treat this animal with reverence, but our modern cities make that impossible, then our lifestyle is fundamentally at odds with our values.
But the sources do offer some hope. They say the problem can be solved if humans take responsibility. It demands action, not just, feeling bad about it.
And they outline what needs to be done. We should provide clean food, water, and shelter to cows. It sounds so basic.
It's the bare minimum for any living creature. But in the congested city, it requires a huge, organized effort. It means investing in regulated shelters, often called goshalas. It means having effective waste management so there isn't plastic all over the streets for them to eat.
It shifts the burden of care from the individual to society as a whole.
It has to. And this leads to the ultimate ethical conclusion in the source material. It's a beautiful synthesis. Protecting animals is not just a tradition, it is a responsibility.
That's a key distinction.
A huge one. A tradition can fade, or you can choose to ignore it. A responsibility is a continuing moral duty. It's dictated by the immense benefits we've received from the animal and the profound harm we now inflict through our own negligence.
So, what does this all mean? When we look at everything, our deep dive shows the cow as this creature of deep duality. It's a source of immense value, physical, economic, spiritual, for thousands of years. But at the same time, it's become this really poignant symbol of our failure to maintain the very systems of care that it represents.
The cow's story, especially the tragedy of its life in modern cities, is really the story of our relationship with the natural world, a relationship that gives us everything but which we increasingly neglect and poison.
So, to synthesize everything we've looked at, the sources consistently come back to this description of a cow as a very useful and gentle animal.
Right, it supports us in many ways, directly and indirectly. Through its milk, the dairy products, its labor in the field, transportation, the sustainable manure, the clean fuel. Its patient presence has literally shaped human economies and spirituality. It provided the stability that allowed civilizations to grow.
And connecting it all back to where we started, this whole discussion just reminds us that simple things often have the greatest value. Its value is just inherent to what it is. It comes from its biology.
Its ability to perform that miracle of turning simple grass into complex, life-sustaining food and power. Its utility doesn't require some massive technological investment. All it requires is that ethical framework of respect and responsible, consistent care.
And that idea of responsibility is tied directly to the final piece of wisdom from our sources. If we respect nature and animals, life will become more
And
balanced.
that word balance, it isn't passive. It's not just a feeling. It implies a reciprocal relationship, a two-way street. We take the milk, the labor, the economic benefits, the spiritual inspiration, but in return, we must provide the clean environment, the safe shelter, and the systems needed to make sure the animal doesn't suffer from the toxic byproducts of our own way of life.
So, as you go about your week, maybe consider this challenge. What does achieving that balance actually demand from us, especially when we look at it through the harsh lens of modern urban reality? If this simple, common animal is truly a measure of our collective responsibility, what systemic changes do we need to support in our waste management, in our community planning, and in our own consumption habits to ensure that the immense value we take is finally matched by the profound, consistent care we give? That really is the lasting ethical weight of the cow's long story with us.